Welcome to Construct Tech TV. We have so much to discuss on today's Tech Update. Now I'm going to be addressing the next generation of hard hats, what's new in 3D printing, a term called Pegless construction, rebuilding following all those hurricanes, and virtual reality caves. So we all know that safety regulations make hard hats mandatory across all your job sites. But did you know that your hard hats are actually getting smarter? By now, and at this point, I'm sure most of you and all of my viewers here have heard about the Daiquiri Smart Helmet. But we've mentioned it, I think, a lot on this show. In fact, you can even learn more about the technology in our October Word of the Day, where we define AR and VR. Basically, it gives workers access to data out at the job site. But there are other technologies that are changing hard hats in the future. For instance, RFID tags can be placed on hard hats to track workers out at the job site. This can ensure even greater safety level at the job site. Another example comes from a company called Bobbly. Now I want to tell you about this company because it provides smart helmets for cycling, skiing, and yes, construction. Its helmets have Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, I think they even have 4G, 5G, and what's even exciting is they have a built-in front camera. It enables real-time audio and video data collecting and multi-party communication. Even more, it has a sensor for harmful gas warning, and it has an emergency reporting system and SOS to look for help. So smart hats are protecting all of the workers in the field. Hard hats just might be knocking some sense into your job site in the very near future. 3D printers are no longer a novelty item, but the challenge is a 3D printer is only as good as the materials it prints out. And let me tell you, the materials are advancing. With polycarbonate, for example, you can print at high temperatures. It is a strong plastic that's widely used because of its high strength. And it is also both a chemical and it is temperature resistant. The ability to quickly 3D print prototypes using this type of material offers unique benefits for the construction industry, such as engineering-grade materials. And that is just one example. As the materials continue to advance, so too will 3D printing in construction. Wireless machine control is here, and it will lead to Pegless construction, or so predicts Technavio. As many of my viewers you already know, earthwork operation often involves surveying to determine the design and slopes. After the removal of bulk materials, survey pegs were required to trim each alignment. But that is all about to change. With real-time monitoring of design within the machine, traditional surveying pegs is no longer required. Rather, design information is loaded into the equipment. And here's where an operator now can view real-time cutting and filling values inside the machine cabin. The monitoring is possible for both horizontal and even vertical design. Cross slopes can be viewed. So for construction companies, you will now be able to improve productivity, heighten safety right at the job site. Are you ready for Pegless construction? At the end of the summer, Hurricane Harvey killed dozens of people in Texas. The highest wind speed was roughly 130 miles per hour. The estimated damage is between $150 billion to $180 billion. This was more costly than Hurricane Katrina or Sandy. Why? I think it's partly because Texas wasn't built to withstand hurricanes. Now it is time to rebuild. As the construction industry gets busy working to rebuild, we need to consider how structures will withstand all of these elements. I believe we need technology and the Internet of Things to help ensure we construct smart, secure structures. The technology can be used in homes, commercial buildings, roads, bridges, dams, waterways, and so much more. The technology fabric of a city can provide information needed in case of a disaster. As we are rebuilding, we need to consider how technology is going to factor in all of this. We need to build structures that are intelligent, secure, and are truly connected. We need to take all of this into account and make it all possible to prevent and consider the next natural disaster. Only when we consider all of these factors will we truly see the future and what lies ahead. Back in 2014, Constructech first wrote of the concept of a BIM cave. This is basically a room that creates real-time images that are being rendered by the computer. People wear special glasses that allow users to see all kinds of images. At the time, these caves were mostly found at universities, but now we are seeing them becoming more of a reality at construction companies. One of the most recent examples comes from Suffolk Construction. This extends the company's Build Smart approach that empowers teams to explore new ways of leveraging technology. The Suffolk Smart Labs are a physical manifestation of the Build Smart approach. It enables teams to sit side by side with clients and even partners. This provides a collaborative project planning and design and construction experience. There are a couple of really unique features I want to talk to you about here. A huddle wall, for instance, facilitates lean pull planning meetings. This helps integrates 3D, 4D, and even 5D models. The virtual reality cave also lets clients virtually step inside the building. Finally, job site feeds provide live streaming of time lapses of existing projects. Perhaps soon you will step inside a virtual cave. That's your tech update for today.
This episode of Constructech TV is brought to you by Jamf Now.
As always, human capital metrics are often collected by companies, but all too often they are not typically reported. A new report sheds some light on human capital metrics and how it impacts safety in construction. Joining me today to give us a little more insight into all of this is Carl Heinlein, who is the Senior Safety Consultant at the American Contractors Insurance Group and Director at Large for the American Society of Safety Engineers. Carl, welcome.
Good afternoon.
So Carl, let's talk about this. It's really important when we think about what the ASSE kind of funded a study, if I'm understanding right, with the Harvard Law School. What does that really mean, and what did you guys do there?
Great. Well, what we did was we worked with Harvard to take a look at human capital and how it worked with the occupational safety and health field. And what we found after we did research with about 2,000 global companies from around the world, that a lot of the information's out there, but it's being held by the companies and it's not publicly available. And why that's important is we want to make sure that we have the ability to benchmark these best practices and these metrics against each other, ultimately to improve job site safety, job site production, job site quality.
You and I both know safety is of the utmost importance. What were some of the major outcomes of this study that you discovered that maybe most people might not understand right now?
Well, what we found is around the world that Europe and Asia lead with gathering the metrics, first of all.
Well, let me interrupt. That's disturbing right there. If you tell me other countries are leading us,
yes,
I find that problematic right there.
Well, they're gathering information a lot more aggressively than we are. And the information that we're gathering is inconsistent, and it's not really one of the biggest issues. It's not shared. So if we can't learn about it, we can't improve.
Well, data, gathering information, we know. We talk about data all the time.
Yes.
Why aren't we doing that at our job sites?
Well, I think we're doing a good job in the construction world at the job sites, but what's happening is we're not sharing that information across the board. We're not sharing our best practices and learning from each other, certainly at the international level, as well as in the United States. So there's opportunity there.
Now that's surprising to me because construction is an industry that, unlike others, are very forthright in sharing information. Why are we not sharing this kind of information when we could, especially about safety and metrics like that, when that's foremost, as I mentioned, amongst everything when we think about safety?
Well, I think we do a good job of sharing some information, but I just don't think it's, some cases, the correct information, the detailed information, really the lessons learned where we can improve at. And that's an area when we went through the study, we found that some people were collecting some information, some companies are collecting other information, so there's consistency of what the information is available out there. So typically what people share may be OSHA related data, Occupational Safety and Health Administration. That's good, but that's really lagging information. We're trying to find out other indicators that are leading indicators that may be much more beneficial for companies and really produce better results.
How do we get them to share this key information? Because I think those metrics can help us improve so that we have less injuries, less deaths at the job site, construction, globally. I think that's what we want, because we really are a very small world. We think we're big, but we're really a small world.
Correct. And we also have a lot of small employers. So how do we impact the small employers? How do we get a better job of creating that consistency in the information? And really, I think that there has to be some sort of standardized or, you know, a group of metrics, 12, 10, 15. There's a number of organizations around the world that some have 140, some have 30, some have 12. So I think it's the consistency of that information that really adds the value. What is important? So I think that one of the things that we found in the study is bringing a group of the experts together to say, what can we do better moving forward that we are getting consistent information.
Are we finding that the larger organizations do it better than the smaller? Is there some difference in the metrics that you discovered in that?
We do. In fact, the percentages are showing that the larger organizations, in some cases 97% of them, when they are reporting that information, it's much better value, much clearer, much more consistency within that. When you start to get to smaller organizations, you're not finding that consistency. They may not have the resources, they may not have the funding, they may not even know what they're looking for.
Is some of it a fear of sharing information? They don't want to share what they're doing because they don't want others to know they haven't done it well enough or they could be doing it better? Is some of that maybe some of the reluctance?
Great question. I think in some cases there may be that competitive advantage. I think in some cases it maybe they don't know what they don't know. So there's some breakdown in the communication. There's a trust issue. I think that there's a communication issue, and I think there's an understanding issue. So I think there's multiple steps within there about that communication. But there is hope. There's opportunity ahead that we can certainly, and I think what we found in this study is once you share this information, I think people are finding opportunities for better practices to improve ultimately their construction firms.
So where do we go from here, Carl? I mean, I always like to have my guests tell me the best things. We've learned what we're not doing, but where do we go from here to improve on our practices?
Well, I think that one thing is continued communication. And I think that the study, the one thing that it offers to us, and you can see that study at ASSE.org, to take a look at that and see what some of the findings are. We took a look at 12 metrics that we think that would be consistent for all organizations in the construction industry to take a look at and benchmark against. But again, we want to continue the conversation. We are currently right now in conversations about having another workshop with these industry experts to find out how we can continue. But we've got to continue the communication. We've got to continue that opportunity for people to share those best practices. So we still have work to do.
Well, Carl, it was great having you on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Carl Heinlein, he's with the American Society of Safety Engineers. Thank you for joining us. That's all the time we have for this segment of Safety Zone. And remember, once more, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Construct Tech TV channel on YouTube. So that's our issue and segment of Safety Zone for today.
Jamf now helps businesses manage Apple devices in the workplace. Jamf now makes managing and securing every work iPhone, iPad, and Mac easier than ever. See the power of Jamf now for yourself. Create an account today at jamf.com/constructtech. Start managing your first 3 devices for free. That's jamf.com/constructtech.
This segment is sponsored by CMIC.
Many companies aim to ensure energy efficiency on projects. This is the case for one engineering firm that has leveraged technology in a unique way to help a high-profile client achieve LEED certification. Joining me to talk all about it is Andrew Clendenen, Director of Business Development at C1S Group. So Andrew, welcome to the show.
Thanks, glad to be here.
So Andrew, tell us a little bit about C1S Group and what you guys do.
Yeah, so we're an engineering construction company, been around about 16 years. Most of our work is in existing manufacturing facilities, existing buildings. That's sort of our specialty, is going in and helping facility managers execute on projects that they maybe don't have the time or capacity to get done. And yeah, we think we're pretty good at it.
Now you guys do a lot of renovations and things like that, so that's what you've been doing. How old a company is it?
So we've been around about 16 years.
That's
started
what you
in
said,
2001.
16. Okay. So
Yeah.
now the types of projects you've been doing, a lot of lead work, and that's what you guys have specialized in with some of the work that you've done there?
Yeah, lead for existing buildings is one of the things that we're really good at. We've done about 20 projects across the country. We actually helped adopt the program from office buildings to a manufacturing setting. Now we have done a lot of office buildings. We've done the first LEED EB Gold campus certification for the Frito-Lay headquarters here in Plano, and then most recently just finished the LEED Platinum certification for the Pepsi global headquarters up in Purchase, New York.
Now that had to be pretty exciting because you guys have really evolved over the years learning how to do that, correct?
It was a lot of fun. That was an interesting project. Took about 10 years to get done, from sort of the concept phase all the way through what they did. It was a gut renovation for their facility, and then obviously we were there for about a year and a half after the construction project, verifying their operations.
So doing something like that takes a lot of involvement, a lot of work to do that. Did you think it was going to take that long and that you would be involved in that process for that length of time?
Well, you know, going back to 10 years ago, probably not. There was so much that had to be done with that building that you had to question whether or not Pepsi had the desire to commit to
the wherewithal,
it.
Right? You're talking about the wherewithal to really commit to do something like that.
Right. So thankfully they did, and we were along for the ride and played a fun part with that team. So
what kind of things do you have to do in a renovation like that to get LEED certified? What kind of things did you have to help them with?
Well, really, it was in the very beginning. It was formulating a plan. What were the opportunities? So they had to look at upgrading their building control system, HVAC system. A lot of the insulation in the building, you know, it was built in the 70s, 60s, and 70s. So it was a vintage building that lacked some of the technological advances that we've been able to see in the construction industry.
So why is that so important today? Is it about cost? Is it about energy? Is it about efficiency? What was so important to PepsiCo to do that and to hire a company like you guys to help them along?
Well, at the bottom line, the net result is that they're saving about $250,000 a year in operating costs after the fact of the renovation. So there's payback. But for a lot of companies, it's difficult to quantify exactly what they're doing with their sustainability efforts. So you go to the LEED program because it's sort of a box for you to not a box, but a program that is recognizable throughout the industry.
So did they have an idea that they were going to save almost $250,000 by doing that?
It was pretty clear early on. Obviously, the building is performing a little bit better than what was anticipated, but yeah, the savings were baked into the project.
So what are you guys doing now? So what is C1S Group doing now? What have you guys been working on with other companies?
Yeah, a lot of our projects are faced, since we're focused more on the industrial setting or manufacturing setting, we're looking at a pretty close 2 to 4 year return on investment for a lot of the projects that we're doing. So you've got to have the ROI there for your energy upgrades, and sometimes that doesn't always mean that you're going to go for a LEED certification, but you will save energy and you will save resources if you're always have that in mind.
So basically you're helping companies develop a plan, develop an outline, and look for what they need to do to renovate, to be more productive and be more profitable. That's ultimately the goal?
It is, yes. And, to that end, we've got teams of people that will actually, on the very early end of a CapEx plan, go into a building and try and help the corporate manager as well as the facility manager on site prioritize those projects. So we're looking at things that are 2 or 3 years out that are design and construction opportunities that we're helping to identify, budget, and then design and execute.
Andrew Clendenen, the Director of Business Development at C1S Group, thank you for being with us.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
All right, well, that's our Someone You Should Know.
This segment is sponsored by Viewpoint Construction Software.
So how do you transform your operations to heighten safety, improve safety, and save some money? You can turn to Industry 4.0. Investment and proper implementation of the Internet of Things just might reduce your project costs. But achieving those savings will require all the players in the construction industry to transform their operations. Here to explain this is Jose Luis Blanco, Associate Partner of McKinsey Company. Jose, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Peggy. Thank you for having me.
So, Jose, let's talk about the construction industry and how they're embracing digital technology and how that's going to help them improve productivity.
Absolutely. Look, the opportunity is huge. It's massive. Let me give you a few numbers. Every year, there's around $10 trillion of construction-related spend in the world. That basically is 13% of the world GDP, and 7% of the world population is actually employed in construction. So construction matters. The opportunity is huge. So over the past years, and this is well known, construction has been lagging in terms of making productivity improvements versus other industries. As a matter of fact, they've only been improving 1% per year, and in developed countries, that improvement has actually been zero, flat. So it's really like a big gap has been opened versus other industries that have been improving. So in the recent report that we just finalized, we basically tried to size what's the size of the opportunity if construction were to catch up with the rates of the industry. And that's basically around $1.6 trillion of value added to the economy. That's about as big as the size of Canada's GDP. So massive. In terms of productivity itself, what we found is if we deploy a certain set of levers, such as improving collaboration, regulation, design and engineering factors, you can actually improve the productivity by 50 or 60%. And that's just improving productivity on the way we do projects right now. If we were actually to depart completely from a project-based approach to a much more like a manufacturing-like system approach for construction, that improvement could be like one order of magnitude higher. So massive.
So when you talk about that's interesting because we've said for a very long time that construction's been lagging. But how do we go about changing that? Because we know they have to improve productivity, they have to get these gains, and we know there's a lot of opportunity in construction. What do we need to do to change that trajectory?
Yeah, so look, there's two things that I want to highlight here. It's there's plenty of factors that have contributed over time to productivity being behind. External forces such as complex regulations, like projects being time over time more complex, industry dynamics, that's having a fragmentation in the value chain, and basically not being completely transparent on what's going on. And finally, firm factors poor project management, lack of training in individuals. So all these together has created the environment for productivity not to move. But this is actually changing right now. For the first time in decades, we feel there is a movement in the industry towards actually tackling all that. We see construction firms appointing chief digital officers and hiring data scientists. Anyone that has worked in a construction company knows how big of a change that had in terms of mindset. They're hiring chief innovation officers. They're actually partnering and investing on construction technology companies. And recently, past 2 years, we've surpassed 100 rounds of financing by venture capital in construction. So everything is moving towards disrupting the system as it is today.
Jose, can you please give us the technologies you think hold the best I guess, opportunity for the construction industry?
Sure, there's plenty of technologies out there, but let me tell you about two that I'm personally excited about. So the first one is what I call drone and IoT-enabled real-time project monitoring. What is exciting about this is building on the adoption of BIM to actually have combined that project baseline that BIM provides with the massive data collection enabled by drone systems and IoT. What is truly exciting about this application is the ability to reduce decision-making cycles in a construction project, from like a monthly basis to almost like a daily basis, to the full automation of project scheduling and budgeting updates on the combination of BIM, IoT, and drone capabilities. The second one is what I call like zero incident enabled wearables and VR. And as AR and VR and wearables usage in the industry is increasing exponentially, what I'm really excited about is that we're going to be able to tailor our safety training to actually a specific construction site. So even before our construction workers set foot on site, they're going to be familiar with the project. So it's really achieving zero rates of incident by getting really granular on the trainings and even just alert them through the wearables when actually they're basically approaching a dangerous zone.
I think this is really exciting, all the things that you're talking about. So what advice would you give executives going forward when they think about where construction and technology and this digitization is headed?
Yeah, so the advice that I would give the construction executives is sometimes when you actually approach digital transformation, it might seem daunting. It might seem, I don't know where to start. What I believe that we need to think is this is actually a combination of different things. You need to actually really put the technology in place. You need to adapt your processes. But on top, you need to change the mindset of the people. You need to explain very clearly what's the need from me. Why do we need to change actually the way we work? Number one is they need to have a clear perspective on what the digital strategy is. So what are you trying to achieve by deploying all this new technology, right? The second one is they need to take advantage of having multiple projects ongoing at the same time in multiple parts of the world. So they need to turn their projects into test labs to really like have the proof of concept of what we're trying to do. They need to be data driven. So they need to actually like evaluate what's going on and not going on and make changes. And last one, they need to increase the investment. They need to establish like listening, hosting. They need to meet it. They need to change a little bit the way they've been working and understand that innovation is going to come. So they need to be a part. That's the pieces that I provide that I have.
I think that's so important. You know, Jose Luis Blanco, Associate Partner of McKinsey Company, thank you so much for all your time today. It's really been great to spend and learn so much that you're saying, and the report sounds so interesting. Thank you so much today.
Thank you for having me, Peggy.
All right, well, that's our Innovation in Tech for today. We all know staying connected on the job can be truly challenging, and I have a tool that just might help you stay connected. Here is the tough-tested Solar 8 battery pack. It can be used on your smartphone and other mobile devices while you're working on the job site. The bank becomes fully charged after plugged in an outlet between 5 to 8 hours. At capacity, the company says it can fully charge your devices for 3 full charges. However, after our team tested it, we only found that we were able to get a little more than 2 charges. But the good news is, what really makes this beneficial is that the solar panel will continue to keep your charges for those extended hours while you're out on the job. So let's talk about some of the stats of this product. It's shockproof and water resistant. It's got a bright LED flashlight, the LED power level indicator. It's got a micro USB input, a dual USB output, a carabiner clip, 8,000 milliamp hour battery. It's compatible with tablets, smartphones, and other USB devices. The InstaSense tech makes sure each device gets the power that it needs. It's priced at $49.99. You can get it at toughtested.com. And that's your Got a Tool for today.
This segment is being sponsored by Explorer Software.
Billions of dollars are being infused into smart cities today. Public leaders are rallying around technology, and the concept of the connected city is really beginning to take off. Contractors need to be prepared for how new technologies will change the way structures are built into the future. So today I'm going to give you my top tips for building smart cities. First, you need to pick your focus. There are many different components of a city that can be connected. Energy is typically the first that comes to mind. Reducing electricity consumption can save cities a lot of money. But there are also other areas that I want you to consider as well. Some have programs for water measurement and even consumption. Others are leveraging the Internet of Things to improve waste. I have even seen a city that is measuring and monitoring air quality. Always, I say the opportunities are really endless, so pick your focus and take your time. It is also critical to consider the challenges that are standing in the way of creating these smart cities, chiefly retrofitting existing infrastructure to make it smart. Too often, information exists in silos, and connecting everything isn't an easy feat. Another big challenge is there are a lot of players involved. This is something you all know in the construction industry oh so well. But on smart city projects, this increases even more. There are technology providers for all the different systems and integrators on top of all the contractors and subs and trades that we talk about all the time. Working together is very critical. So my next tip is to understand the funding. Public and private partnerships are becoming more common. They can help address tight budgets and limited funding on government projects. And this can help make implementation on new technologies more feasible. As I've said so many times on my radio show, the Peggy Smedley Show, and in Connected World magazine, what we have is a funding problem. Someone has to pay for all these smart cities. It's going to have to be a joint effort between the public and private sector. So there you have it. My top tips for today. It all boils down to working together for the same cause. This is how we will build the smart city of tomorrow, today. So that's your Learn It for today.
This segment is being sponsored by PM Web.
Today's word of the day is business intelligence, also known as BI. BI first emerged back in the 1980s, for most of you who might not know this, and today it seems everyone has a different definition. So let's go through what some of the analysts are saying. Forrester, for instance, says it's a set of processes and technologies that leverage the output of information management processes. So now this is what I looked at, and it says that this can be used for analysis, reporting, performance management, and even information delivery. Now, another analyst firm, Gartner, for example, says it's an umbrella term that includes applications, infrastructure and tools, and even best practices. And they're saying it enables an analysis of information to improve decisions and performances. But let me tell you, basically, it's just data. That is what we talk about here at Specialty Publishing Media every day. So simply, it's just data. So that's what we're talking. Pretty simple, right? But now here's the problem. It's not. As we all know, leveraging data both in the office and at the job site can be very challenging. As construction companies, you're seeking out ways to collect and analyze business intelligence to make critical business decisions. But a new trend is emerging that could help change the game and make this an easier task. Now, this is where we think it's most important. Leveraging outside professional services for business intelligence. In fact, we looked at the numbers. 49% of decision makers say their firms are already engaging with outside data and analytic firms per Forrester. Another whopping 22% plan to do this within the next 12 months. So this is due to two big trends. First, the breadth and depth of BI deployments cannot be internally replicated at scale. Second, implementation partners can help connect technology business priorities. So this is essential, I think, for good business intelligence. Linking both technology and operations is essential to ensuring a good ROI, otherwise a good return on investment. And that is what we see more and more both right now and into the future. Business intelligence. That's your word of the day. And thanks for watching Construct Tech TV, where we are talking so much tech at the job site.